Hi guys, I'm Emily and welcome to Pilates with Ems. This is my YouTube channel where I share different Reformer and Mat Pilates classes, mainly for other instructors to take inspiration from, but also if you are a client and you are lucky enough to have a Reformer at home, or if you like to do Mat Pilates at home, these videos are also for you as well. As this is my first video, I wanted to explain a little bit more about why I am doing this. And the reason why is when I was living in the UK, I was a freelancer. One of my jobs being a Pilates instructor, and I would get to about an hour or so before my evening Reformer classes and just feel completely wiped and stumped of inspiration for my next class. And I think because I care so much about my clients enjoying the class and feeling like it's beneficial and it flows well, I would just get stuck in my own head and I would feel not very inspired, especially if you're teaching a lot of classes a week. And I would look on YouTube to try and maybe look for like an intermediate class plan or an intermediate class with the ring, and just found that I couldn't find any shorter videos that kind of just go through each exercise, as opposed to like follow along Reformer videos where you're actually doing the workout with them. And so I wanted to create a video where the first half is me talking through the exercises. So possibly if you're a new instructor or you're just looking for new cues, I can actually talk you through each exercise. And then the second half of the video is a sped up version of me doing the class. So if you are short on time, you're more of an experienced instructor, you don't necessarily want to hear me talking through the class, you just want to see it to be able to write down, I will write where you need to skip to in the video. So hopefully I will save you fellow instructors a little bit of time. And whilst I've got you here, if you are an instructor living in Dubai, we actually offer 10% off for other instructors to come and take class at our studio. We are the Reformery in JBC. If you fancy just coming, switching off and being able to take a class as a client and not an instructor, feel free to come along. You can message me on Instagram at Pilates with Ems, or you can message the Reformery as well, or you can leave a comment below and I will get back to you about how to access that discount. So a little disclaimer before we get started, I am not here to reinvent the wheel. You will see lots of exercises that you already know, and that's not necessarily what I'm here for. Although if I do give you a new exercise, then brilliant, that's an extra bonus. It's more about just having a sequential class flow that you can literally take from the video, put it straight into your notes app or your notepad, and then get cracking in class. I am a contemporary Pilates instructor, so you will see some classical exercises in my flows. I love the classical exercises and the classical repertoire, but I do go for a little bit more dynamic in my sessions. But of course, I'm always driven by the Pilates principles, so ensuring that the clients are in the correct alignment, they're breathing properly, they're engaging their core, and there's a nice flow to the class. As always, because it's not Pilates if you don't follow the principles. I do plan on separating all of my class flows into beginner, intermediate, advanced, and then separating them into props as well. But for today and for my first video, I thought I would just do an all levels Reformer class. I am seeing a lot more all level classes coming in, especially in Dubai, and I feel like they're really, really hard to plan for, because you could have a complete beginner, you could also have a very advanced person in your class. So this class plan is a really good one to layer up and give options. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do try the class, please do let me know and pop it in the comments and let me know what your clients thought. So for everybody, I used a pair of light hand weights. These are 1 kg. For my intermediate class, I actually offered them the ankle weights. I would not offer ankle weights in a mixed ability class. People put them on out of peer pressure. And if you have beginners coming for the first time, I would not recommend ankle weights for them, because if they don't have the core, they often come into their lower back once you add some weight onto their ankles. I start my class always with spinal mobility. Any kind of spinal mobility is fine, as long as you're getting flexion, extension, rotation, and a lateral bend as well. I always just get my clients to pop their footwork springs on first. So it's 2 heavy and 1 light spring for your beginner, 2 heavy, 1 medium spring for your intermediate. Start with a little bit of spinal mobility. So finding that nice parallel position with the feet, soft bend through the knees, nice deep breath in, reach the arms up towards the ceiling. They clasp behind the back of the head. Open up through that chest, draw the elbows back and let the chin go up to the ceiling. As you exhale, they draw elbows together, chin to chest, gently start to roll through your C curve. So encouraging the clients to scoop the belly and add a little bit of pressure on the arms as you roll down. At the bottom, just nodding the head yes, shaking the head no. Got them to bend their left knee and put their left hand on the floor, straighten their right leg and reach the right arm up towards the ceiling. And then get them to go the other way. Inhale, exhale, straighten those legs. See if they can keep the hands as close to the floor as possible. But just remind them that it's okay if they can't get their legs straight or they can't touch the floor. It's their version of straight, that's what I always say. Bend the knees, roll all the way up. I usually get them to do that 2 times over, with the second one being a little bit quicker. Now just moving into some side bends, so reaching the arms up towards the ceiling, grabbing the left wrist with the right hand, right leg goes behind the left, nice and square with those hips, and then bending over, using the grip on that wrist to add a little bit extra into the side. To center, swapping over to the other side. So before you start with your footwork, it's really important to check in with the breathing and the core connection. So start coming into some of the lateral breathing. So inhaling through the nose, feeling the ribs expand outwards. And then as they exhale, they're going to breathe out through pursed lips, like they're blowing out a candle. With each exhale, starting to engage through the abdominals. So as they exhale, thinking about drawing their belly away from their fingertips. I also like to cue here about the front of the abs and the side drawing in to hug the spine. So flexing the toes up, we press out as you exhale, and then inhale slowly, resisting the spring. So making sure they're nice and equal between both feet. Some little pulses, so up an inch, down an inch. Moving to the toes, but with their heels high. So pressing out, and then inhaling, keeping those heels nice and high, working into some ankle stability and also into the back of the legs. From there, straighten them all the way out, lowering the heels under the foot bar and then lifting nice and slowly. And then just sending one heel under the foot bar and then slowly swapping. After a couple of reps here, I got them to move into a little bit more of a jog. And then for the last 8, I got them to speed up, but still with control. From there, lifting both heels, coming halfway, holding the carriage out, and then just lowering the heels and lifting the heels. The more you stretch on those springs, the harder it's going to be on those quads. And then coming into the final position here, wide heels on the foot bar, pressing all the way out. And then after a couple of those reps, I just want them actually to come halfway and just hold in stillness. So a nice isometric hold here. That's going to build that endurance in the legs. And then straightening all the way out and then slowly coming in. I then got them to change their spring, adding one medium spring and one light, taking off everything else. Pop that foot bar down. And then just coming into some single arm abdominals here. So taking the right hand either in the large loop or if they want a little bit more tension in the short loop. Fingers nice and long. Exhale, engage the core first, float the right leg up to tabletop, and then pop some weight in that loop, bringing the left leg up to tabletop. And then I just want them to press their arms straight down towards the foot bar, just getting the weight distribution as well, because what happens is they may want to go off to the left or towards the loop, so just trying to stay grounded through both hips here. From there, I lay it on, so lifting a head, neck and shoulder into an abdominal curl. And then adding a same leg extension, so they're working just the right side here. And after a couple of reps like that, I then went to the left leg extension. So now working diagonally across the core. I usually cue to press the back of their ribs down into the carriage. I then got them to just walk their shoulders away from the shoulder pads. Pop your left hand in, right hand on top. You're going to go over towards that loop. So working into the obliques here. On their last one, holding all the way up and just extending that left leg out and in for 8. And then coming all the way in, letting them just relax through that core, straight onto the left hand side. From there, getting your intermediate clients to pop their ankle weights on, getting everybody to grab their 1 kg dumbbells, and then just setting up the spring. So we're going to work through some inner thighs to start. Light spring as your beginner, or no spring as your advanced. Coming into a kneeling position, dumbbells in together, elbows wide, knock the carriage away an inch. And the challenge here was to stay stable through the carriage. Coming into some hinges first, getting them to go slowly Once they hit a 45-degree angle, they come all the way back up. Squeeze the glutes, press your knees down into the carriage to engage through the back of the legs and the glutes. Adding a shoulder press at the top. From there, after a couple of reps, I got them to come into some kneeling in the thighs. So they send the carriage out, thinking about going down to the springs. Palms face forward now. They draw the carriage in really slowly. We're going to come for some around the world with those dumbbells. So I would always encourage them to go really slowly. Maybe they count to 4 as they come out, and then they count to 4 as they come all the way back in. After a couple of those reps, I got them to hold out and just pulse at their end range. So coming out an inch, in an inch, viewing that their core and their torso is super stable. Slowly drawing that carriage all the way in. Spring change if my intermediates want it. So a lot of my beginner clients stayed on their light spring. Beginners are staying on the same spring. My intermediates or advanced would change to their medium. They're going to take their leg closest to the foot bar, comes up against both shoulder pads. And then your leg towards the back of the carriage is going to come onto the rails in front of you. Dumbbells in again at our chest. We're going to draw the carriage away from the stopper so that your knee is in line with the hip. This is their position A. We want to keep the carriage away from the stopper the whole time. From there, we exhale, we draw that carriage underneath, we squeeze in with those inner thighs, and then we come back to position A. So it's just the leg on the carriage that moves. It's not the one that's on the rail. You might find if it's too heavy, they start to use this leg that's on the rail. This is just here for stability. You're using the underneath leg to tuck the carriage under. They can make this harder by moving their leg up the rail. Alternatively, they can make it slightly easier by pulling the leg closer towards the springs. From there, I got them to add a rotation. So as the carriage came underneath, they rotated towards the back of their machine. Your advanced or intermediate option would be just to increase the levers of those arms. And then at the end, I got them to hold in that rotation and just pulse at that end range, either with the arms in. Oh my God, this is so intense on the inner thighs. Or with those arms straight and then getting them to come all the way back, park that carriage. They don't really need to do much, but I just like to add a little bit of space between my legs and the shoulder pads to straighten that leg on the rail. From here, we're going to go into some obliques. So nice deep breath in. You're going to bend towards the springs or towards the foot bar, and then exhale, use the side of that waist to lift you all the way back up. Coming up and over, thinking maybe you've got a barrel here that you're lifting up and over, as opposed to coming in and sinking through that waist. You can increase those levers by extending out, coming back in, lifting all the way back up. They could also keep hands overhead the entire time. That would probably most likely be more intermediate / advanced. Then adding a rotation down towards those springs, coming back and then lifting. And for your final progression, just holding there and rotating for 8. Again, the arms can be wherever you see fit for your clients. And then coming all the way back up, or if you wanted a nice seamless flow, you could stay there, get them to pop their dumbbell down onto the carriage, and then their hand is going to go to the edge of the carriage. Top hand has the dumbbell. I had quite a few beginners actually just drop that dumbbell and do it without, so please make sure you cue. They can drop the dumbbells at any point. The carriage will not move in this exercise, so the dumbbells are nice and safe to stay down on the carriage. And then lifting that leg up and off of the rail, bringing it in line with the hip. Inhale as the leg drops in between the well. The next progression is extending that arm up and overhead. We come into a little elbow to knee, sinking that hip back, and then exhaling, sending that arm nice and long. After a couple of those reps, I got them to reach that arm up towards the ceiling and just pulse that leg up for 8. And then popping that leg down, pop the dumbbell down, come into a nice standing / kneeling side bend. This is where I changed my class plan depending on who I was teaching. I'm going to show you what I did for my beginners first. For my beginner clients, I went for a knee tuck and a saw. As I'm sure you know with your planks and knee tucks, the heavier you go, the more supported they will feel. So I would recommend for my beginner clients to actually go up a spring, so changing their spring from a extra light or a light to a light or a medium, so just knocking up 1. This is also something that you can do in a mixed levels class because they can pick their level. And every time I do this exercise, even with my knees down, even as an instructor that trains 4 or 5 times a week reformer, I still feel it in my core. Getting them to come hands and knees, feet up against the shoulder pads. Getting them to do a couple of cat-cow. Get a little bit of movement in their spine. And then finding their neutral, so somewhere in between cat or a cow. And then what I do is get them to just edge into a little bit of their cat. Finding that little cat just helps me to actually create a straight back. We go for some knee tucks, so encouraging the clients to keep their weight in their hands. This is your position A. Send the carriage out, keep the weight in their hands, and then drop the hips forward. Now, I always say the hips, not the belly. Belly is lifted, but the hips drop into your half plank position. That is position B. Coming back to A as they inhale, and then exhale coming back to B. They can stay here if this feels good. Moving into the saw, so coming to B, then extend the carriage away, taking their weight out of their hands. In that half plank position, chest will go down to the springs, shake will start to happen, and then coming back to B before A. My final layer would just be to go through those saws, so sawing backwards and forwards. And if you have intermediate clients who need a little bit more, they can come up to their full plank, or you just get them to slow it down. I would recommend having that exercise sandwiched in the middle, because when I did this class plan, especially at beginners, there was lots of shakes. There really wasn't a lot of breaks off of the legs. So if you added that saw at the end of class when everyone's tired, I do think form will go. But of course, you know your clients better than I do, so you could always go straight onto the other side, do everything, and then finish with that saw. I always like to finish with a plank. I think it's a really good way to end the class. It gets the heart rate up, it gets the endorphins up. It's also that final little challenge and push of class, and then when they come into the cool down, they have that real sense of achievement. For my intermediates, I went for a side plank series. So we actually want a little bit of a heavier spring for this side plank exercise. I would keep them on the spring that they had for those needing inner thighs. If they didn't choose to go heavier, get them to change now. So getting them to come elbow onto the platform. Knees are going to nudge the carriage out and making sure that hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked, and pressing that platform away. Inhale, they're going to send the carriage away. They're going to drop their waist and their hip down towards the springs. And then exhale, they round up through that side of the waist. Now layering on as they come in, they can rotate elbow towards the foot, bringing the carriage as far as they can in, and then inhaling to find that length in the waist. So finding both end ranges. Final layer here was as the carriage went away, they extended that leg out. Now don't forget they have the ankle weights on. So if they are struggling, I would encourage not to use that leg extension as a final layer. Extended that leg, reach the arms up. We just did a little pulse through that waist to finish. You could here go straight onto the side planks on the other side, then go straight into kneeling inner thighs, layer up, and then finish with your side pulses. And then for my cool down, mermaid stretch. Mermaid is quite literally my favourite cool down stretch ever. I'm surprised my clients aren't bored of it yet. They can leave the foot bar down, they can just use the hand on the platform. Getting them to stay nice and rooted down through both hips, because what you'll get is if there's a lot of tightness in the hip flexors, that lift. I always say we're aiming to keep both hips down, or we're aiming to do this, but not everyone can, and that's fine. As long as there's that awareness, they're already a step ahead. I have to go for one blue spring, reaching that arm all the way up towards the ceiling, and then bending from the waist. If they lift that hip, they can get further, but they're not doing anything for their waist here. They might not be able to go as far, but the bend will come from the side of the spine and the waist, and not from their hips. After a couple of reps here, I get them to reach all the way up and then find the platform with both hands. This is where that hip can lift now. Take the hands nice and wide, let the chest come down, feeling the stretch through that upper body, shoulders and chest. From there, keeping their arms straight, coming up into their mermaid. I always get them to imagine Little Mermaid, Ariel on the rock. The shoulder blades melting down the back, shoulders coming away from ears. I try, if I don't run out of time, to make my cool down reflect what we did in the class. So for this cool down, we're going to do an inner thigh stretch. They have two options. They can either be kneeling One knee on the platform, one knee on the carriage, one hand on the platform, and then one hand on the rail. And then once the carriage goes away, they can bring both hands onto the rail. If you have clients with the mobility, they can actually extend that leg all the way out and keep a nice straight leg, thinking of the hips going down towards the springs. So mermaid and inner thigh stretch on the other side. And then I just get them to kneel on the carriage, clasping their hands behind the back, and then just opening out through that chest. I would get them to close their eyes here if they want to, and they can drop the chin to the chest and just roll through that neck. Releasing those hands, and then rounding through the spine, so finding that nice curve of the spine. Eyeline goes down to the thighs, press those palms away, and then at the end of my class, I always cue, take the biggest breath you've taken all day, filling up those lungs with air. Exhale, just let the arms float down to the sides, giving themselves a big clap. much if you made it all the way through my first YouTube video. I really appreciate the support. And please do let me know if you use my class plan, whether you use it yourself or whether you use it on your clients. And let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. If you have any other suggestions for what might have worked in that flow as well, I'm always open to feedback. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!